everybody, Natalie Willis, the baby sleep trainer here. Today we are talking about physical milestones and sleep. I don't care how disciplined you are about your child's sleep. It is a all but certainty that at some point, and probably multiple points over their first and second years of life, you're going to notice that these physical milestones disrupt their sleep. They usually progress in the following way: first rolling over, then sort of rocking back and forth to sitting. Sometimes there'll be some crawling in there, usually to standing. Standing is the big one that really seems to disrupt sleep the most. That's because those other milestones happen when babies are a lot younger and they need a lot more sleep. And so even though they kind of are disrupted with it, they also will tend to just go back to sleep. But when you get up to the standing, that's typically happening, let's call it around 10 months, maybe give or take a little while, depending on your child. And that comes with an added mental sort of awareness where this child's like, oh, I can stand up and I don't want to go to sleep. And parents are understandably inclined to go in and lay them back down. But I'll give you one guess as to what normally happens when you do that, and that means they just pop right back up. And then it becomes, I don't like to call it a game, but the one thing that your child wants when they're supposed to be asleep is to be hanging out with you. So if they know that something is going to get you to come back in, they're usually going to be right back up. So a couple of things to keep in mind. First and foremost, reach out to your pediatrician and say, hey, my little one is standing up. I don't really want to intervene. I want to just let them figure out how to lay back down on their own and see what your pediatrician says. Make sure they think it's safe. A lot of families are worried that their little one will bump or hurt themselves on the way down. That's pretty uncommon. You don't want to make that decision alone, though, so make sure your pediatrician is on board with you not doing anything. If you really truly are worried that your child might hurt themselves in their crib, you can also just put them in a pack and play. Soft sides shouldn't be an issue. But it's probably not going to surprise you to hear what I think you should do, because if you follow me at all, I often will give the same response to a variety of problems, and that's nothing. Don't do anything. Unless there's a safety issue, I would make sure that you are putting your child down for naps and bedtime as normal, assuming they know how to fall asleep on their own. If your child has not yet learned how to fall asleep independently, you have another problem that you need to deal with, which is teaching them to fall asleep independently. But if your child is an independent sleeper and they do know how to fall asleep on their own, I wouldn't do anything. Give them a certain amount of time, maybe 30 to 60 minutes for a nap and until the morning to figure out how to get down on their own. And they really will figure out how to do it. The more you intervene, the longer you're putting off them figuring out on their own. And you helping them sit down and stand up is not helping them figure it out. That's unfortunately not how it works. Kind of like how when you're teaching a child to ride a bike, and maybe you haven't had this experience yet, but no matter what you do, you can't hold the back of that bike and tell your child, okay, do you see what this feels like? Okay, this is what it feels like to ride a bike. The only way for them to really figure it out is to do it on their own and to fall a few times, right? And then they finally get it, and then they learn how to balance. Figuring out how to work through these milestones is pretty similar. The more you intervene, the harder it's going to be, and the longer it'll take for them to figure it out on their own. And this really applies to even those milestones that younger kiddos go through too. So if your pediatrician, ask your doctor what to do when your baby rolls to their stomach during sleep or whatever it may be, and really kind of try to be hands-off during that time. And that will help them be the most successful. Usually these milestones will resolve themselves within a few nights and days if you are able to be more hands-off.